They told him he was done. They said his body was broken. The whispers backstage, and trust me, there were plenty of them, said that AJ Styles had wrestled his last match, that the Phenomenal One had given everything he had to this business, and that the well had finally run dry. And yet, here he is. Welcome back to WrestleScope, the channel that never sleeps so you don't have to. I'm your host, and today we are exploding with a story that has sent the entire WWE universe into a complete frenzy. AJ Styles is returning, and not just for any random Monday Night Raw segment or some throwaway pay-per-view match. No. He is coming back for the Elimination Chamber. Strap in, because what I'm about to tell you changes everything, and I mean that. But before we go any further, I need to say something that is going to make a lot of you uncomfortable. And honestly, good, because somebody has to say it. WWE has been lying to us. Not in the storyline kayfabe kind of way, not in the "oh, that was a worked shoot" kind of way. I mean they have been deliberately letting us believe that AJ Styles was finished, done, out of the picture, so that this moment could hit harder. And while part of me appreciates the masterclass in storytelling, the other part of me is furious on behalf of every single AJ Styles fan who spent months grieving a career they thought was over. Think about it. Think about what they put this man through on television, the losing streak, the humiliation, the burial, and yes, I'm using that word intentionally, at the hands of a storyline that made one of the greatest in-ring performers in the history of professional wrestling look like a broken-down afterthought. Fans were sending farewell messages on social media. People were writing tribute posts. Grown adults were crying watching what they thought were AJ Styles' final moments in a WWE ring. And WWE sat back and let it happen. Now look, I get it. The payoff is supposed to justify the pain. The return is supposed to make the suffering worth it. And if this Elimination Chamber run is handled correctly, maybe it does. Maybe it absolutely does. But here's my question, and I want you to drop this in the comments right now because I genuinely want to know what you think. Did WWE go too far? Did they damage AJ Styles' legacy to manufacture a feel-good moment? Or is this the greatest long con in recent WWE history? Drop it below. I'm reading every single response. Now, let's get into it. Let's talk about what the Elimination Chamber actually means in 2025 and why AJ Styles inserting himself into this equation is not just exciting, it is potentially the most significant return we've seen in years. The Elimination Chamber Premium Live event is one of WWE's most grueling, most unforgiving spectacles. The steel, the pods, the cold hard floor of that structure that has ended careers and rewritten destinies. The Chamber doesn't care about your legacy. It doesn't care about your reputation. It doesn't care that you're a former WWE champion, a former United States champion, a former tag team champion, a Royal Rumble winner, or a beloved veteran. Inside that chamber, you are nothing until you prove you are something. And AJ Styles, the Phenomenal One, the guy who has wrestled in virtually every major promotion on Earth, the guy who had 5-star classics in TNA when people said TNA couldn't produce 5-star classics, the guy who walked into WWE in his late 30s and immediately became its best performer. AJ Styles has something to prove like never before, because the narrative that was building around him was becoming genuinely tragic. He wasn't just losing, he was losing in ways that made him seem irrelevant. There is a difference between putting someone over and erasing someone, and the line between those two things was getting dangerously thin with how AJ was being booked. Fans noticed, the dirt sheets noticed, the wrestling community at large noticed. And now, suddenly, explosively, he's back, and he's back at the Chamber. Let's talk about the return itself, because the moment it happened, the internet broke in half. If you were watching live, and if you weren't, where were you? You felt it. You felt that electricity that only professional wrestling can generate when it fires on all cylinders. That specific kind of electricity that makes you forget you're an adult with responsibilities and bills and back pain, and suddenly you're 10 years old again, and the world is pure magic. The music hit, those iconic notes, and the crowd lost their minds. And here's what makes this return different from your average surprise comeback pop. AJ Styles didn't just walk out and wave to the crowd. He walked out with purpose. There was a fire in his eyes that, honestly, we haven't seen in a long time.
The slumped shoulders were gone. The defeated body language that had become heartbreakingly familiar over recent months, gone. This was the phenomenal one, capital P, capital O, the real one. The one that showed up in the Royal Rumble and made everyone remember why he is generationally gifted. And the promo. Let's talk about the promo, because AJ Styles on the microphone when he is locked in is one of wrestling's great unsung pleasures. He doesn't scream, he doesn't need to. He speaks with this quiet, controlled intensity that somehow cuts deeper than any screaming ever could. Every word landed like a shot. He addressed the losing streak. He addressed the doubters, inside the company and outside of it. He addressed the fans who never stopped believing. And then he said he was entering the Elimination Chamber, and the roof nearly came off the building. Now here's where my unique perspective comes in, and I need you to hear me out because this is the part that nobody else is talking about. What if the losing streak wasn't a burial? What if it was a character reset? A deliberate, calculated reconstruction of AJ Styles as a hungry performer rather than a comfortable legend? Think about this with me. One of the biggest problems in professional wrestling is that legends become comfortable. They become monuments. Fans respect them, pop for their entrance, appreciate their matches, but there's no genuine desperation. There's no real stakes. You stop believing they might actually lose something that matters because they've already won everything. The losing streak, as agonizing as it was to watch, stripped all of that away. It took AJ Styles off his pedestal. It made him vulnerable. It made him human. It made him, for the first time in years, someone who needed this. Someone who wasn't just competing for another championship reign to add to an already legendary resume, but someone competing to survive, to prove that he still belongs, to reclaim something that was taken from him. And now he walks into the Elimination Chamber not as a comfortable legend, but as a desperate, motivated, dangerous veteran with everything to prove and nothing to lose. Ladies and gentlemen, I am telling you right now, that version of AJ Styles is the most terrifying version of AJ Styles that has ever existed. Because a man who has been comfortable can be beaten. A man who has been humbled, who has been broken down, who has spent months staring at the ceiling wondering if it's over, and then chooses to come back, that man is unkillable. And the question that should be keeping every other chamber participant up at night is simple. What happens when the phenomenal one has nothing left to lose? We've seen what AJ Styles can do when he's at the top. The championship reigns, the classic matches, the legendary feuds with Samoa Joe, with Shinsuke Nakamura, with Roman Reigns, with John Cena, with Randy Orton. We have seen the ceiling of his greatness, but we have never, not once, seen AJ Styles competing from the floor, from the bottom, from a place of genuine desperation. Until now. Let's talk about what's actually at stake here, because beyond the emotion and beyond the spectacle, the Elimination Chamber has real, tangible, career-altering consequences. A chamber victory doesn't just feel good, it sets the trajectory for WrestleMania. Whoever walks out of that chamber with momentum walks directly into the grandest stage professional wrestling has ever known. And AJ Styles at WrestleMania, a motivated, desperate, hungry AJ Styles at WrestleMania, is a main event story that writes itself. Think about the potential matches. Think about the potential rivalries that could ignite if Styles tears through the chamber and announces himself as a legitimate WrestleMania player. The wrestling world would collectively lose its mind, and rightfully so. But here's the brutal truth that I refuse to ignore, because this channel is always going to give you honesty over height. The road is not easy. The chamber is merciless, and AJ Styles, legend that he is not walking in as the favorite. His body has taken decades of damage. His recent record is not a confidence builder regardless of how the narrative is being reframed, and the other competitors in that chamber are not going to care about the feel-good story. They are going to try to end him, which means AJ Styles has to be better than he's ever been, at a stage in his career where that should theoretically be impossible. Should be, theoretically. But then again, this is the phenomenal one we're talking about, and the phenomenal one has never cared much for what's theoretically possible. Here's where I land on all of this. AJ Styles returning for the Elimination Chamber is not just a wrestling story. It's a story about resilience. It's a story about refusing to accept the narrative that other people write for you. It's a story about a man who was told, by circumstances, by storylines, by the cruel passage of time, that his best days were behind him, and who looked all of that in the face and said, "Not yet." And whether you are a lifelong AJ Styles fan, a casual viewer, or someone who tuned in purely for the spectacle of the chamber, that story is going to resonate, because all of us at some point have been told that our best days are behind us. All of us have faced a moment where the world seemed to be writing our ending for us. And all of us secretly want to believe that we can pull a phenomenal forearm out of nowhere and remind the world exactly who we are. That's the magic of AJ Styles in this moment. That's why this return hits different. That's why this chamber match matters more than it might on paper. The Phenomenal One is back, and I genuinely cannot wait to see what happens next. Alright, WrestleScope Nation, you know what time it is. If this video fired you up, if you believe in AJ Styles, if you're furious at how he's been booked, if you think this is the greatest comeback story in years, or if you think WWE is setting us up for heartbreak again, I want to hear from you. Drop your take in the comments right now. This is your space. This community runs on your passion and your opinions and your fire, and I read every single comment. If you are new to WrestleScope, hit that subscribe button and join a community of wrestling fans who tell it straight, love this sport deeply, and never settle for surface-level takes. We go deeper here, always. And if this video gave you something, if it sparked a thought, made you feel something, made you want to argue with your friends, smash that like button and share this video. Help us spread the word. Help us grow this community. Because the bigger WrestleScope gets, the louder our voice becomes. And in a wrestling world that doesn't always listen to the fans, a loud voice matters. I'll see you in the next one. Stay phenomenal.